Welcome to Freaked Out with your co-hosts, Liz and Landon.
What's up, everybody?
Today we are covering the second part of Brittany Murphy's episode, but we're doing it more so from Simon's perspective and answering some questions that I'm very confused about.
For those of you who haven't heard the episode, exclusive episode number 9, before listening to this one, so it can make a little more sense for you all.
Yes. Now, before we get started, let's discuss a few things about the rest of what this month looks like. Since we managed to get the 2,000 members for the Facebook group, that gave us a win for the first bonus episode. Woohoo! So, we will be dropping 2 episodes this week, so expect tomorrow to have a free episode posted of Mac Miller. We will also be covering the story of Jordan Nebling as well, so next week you'll have that one to look forward to. And honestly, I'm looking forward to it as well.
The following week, we will be covering baby Sabrina on the exclusive side. This one, we have had it requested for a very long time now. We're finally going to cover it. Make sure you tune in. You won't want to miss this either.
I am so ready for this story today. It's different because we usually do the spirit side of things, and now we got to deal with like a haunted house. So ready when you are.
Liz and I were trying to find out anything that we could about the house at 1895 Rising Glen Road. We weren't able to find anything on it before Britney Spears moved in it. All it says is that she bought it and Justin lived there with her.
Brittany also thought that there was something very scary in the mansion long before Murphy did. A former makeup artist said in a February episode of We Need to Talk About Britney that Britney Spears liked Britney
Something crazy. When Britney left the house, she never went back and sold the home with everything in it. While Murphy never claimed to see any spirits, she did seem to have a sense that something was a bit off about the home.
Shortly after her death in January 2010, Simon shared that his late wife tried to avoid the home at all costs. She absolutely hated the Rising Glen house, he said. Every time we would drive up Sunset, Brittany would say, "Please, can we stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel?" I'd say, "Honey, you've got to be realistic. We have our house, a 10,000 square foot home. We're going to stay in it."
Simon told reporters that Murphy thought the property was unlucky and was planning to move her and Simon and her mother to New York in the next year, where they were planning to start a new family.
Simon had shared that the bathroom where Murphy ultimately died was her comfort zone in the home. She spent hours in there reading magazines, singing to herself, writing poetry, sampling her beauty products, and looking at herself in the mirror. According to Simon, he also stated that he felt like things were crawling all over his skin at times.
After becoming well known as the location of the couple's mysterious deaths, the home has changed hands multiple times. According to property records, Sharon sold the estate at a massive loss of $2.7 million in 2011 after struggling to find a buyer. In 2013, it was torn down and underwent a multi-year rebuild, with developers aiming to create a sprawling, contemporary structure. When it was sold again in 2017, it sold for $14.53 million. The property bore no resemblance to the former incarnation.
The new home was sold in December of 2020 for $11.59 million. Property records show that it measures 9,400 square feet and has 5 bedrooms and 8.5 bathrooms. Holy crap. Can you imagine?
About 600 square feet less than the original property at a whopping 10,000 square feet when Brittany Murphy had it. The other thing we want to talk about is Simon and his own history. And from what we have seen online, and we found out a lot. Once his relationship became public with Brittany Murphy, they weren't seen much before he got married to her, and it looks as though he had a few legal issues and also a few women issues.
Yes, here are the legal issues he had outstanding. In 2005, warrants were issued for Simon's arrest in Virginia on charges of credit card fraud, but the charges were later dropped in 2006. Coutts Bank successfully sued him, who had also been evicted from 4 homes for $470,000 in February of 2007. Simon was arrested and spent 9 days in jail facing deportation because his visa to the United States had expired.
The 2-part series, What Happened to Brittany Murphy, had a woman by the name of Elizabeth Ragsdale. Elizabeth and Simon had a relationship in the 1990s. Brittany and Simon allegedly met when she was only 17, when he became friends with her and her mother, Sharon Murphy. Around that time, Simon became involved with Elizabeth, a woman from Paris.
Elizabeth was once engaged to Simon. In June of 1998, Simon popped the question to Elizabeth. However, at this time, cracks began to appear in Simon's facade. After Elizabeth turned him down for sex, he tearfully told her that he had spinal cancer and was undergoing treatment in Monaco. Elizabeth acquitted his pleading and they made love. He was very rough.
In September of 1998, the two were together in Monaco, and he said that if he were going to have children, she had to get pregnant right then because the sharp cartilage treatments would make him sterile.
Simon's mother, Linda, defended her late son, saying that he developed extreme paranoia after his own father's death from cancer. I certainly don't think he went out of his way to tell people he had cancer. I think he just believed it, she said. Whether or not he believed it, the results are the same. Elizabeth got pregnant in Monaco. I mean, in reality, though, if you think about it, somebody that's going to lie about having something like cancer, there's something pretty screwed up in your head, regardless of dad having it or not.
I feel like you're still going out of your way, in my opinion, because you're still telling people you have cancer. That's kind of still going out of your way.
You want that sympathy from people.
Yeah,
Why?
Exactly. Why didn't you go get a doctor? Prove it. She gave birth to their son in 2003. Elizabeth's pregnancy wasn't a happy one. She got very sick while carrying her and Simon's child. Elizabeth wanted to fly her sister and her family out to visit Monaco, which Simon ended up shooting down. A friend of Elizabeth started to get very worried because she was cut off from everyone, and this isolation was taking a major toll.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Absolutely. One day when Elizabeth came to visit, her friend said she looked like she had gotten back from a concentration camp. This friend confronted Simon and told him to take Elizabeth to a doctor immediately. If he wouldn't, then she would. Elizabeth thinks this friend saved her life.
And if I'm going to be completely honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he was drugging her too.
Probably.
When she arrived in New York, Elizabeth called up Simon to tell him basically that she had arrived. He hung up on her. Elizabeth's attempts to contact Simon proved useless. After Simon initially ghosted her, Elizabeth called up his mother, and Linda revealed that Simon didn't have cancer and that he had been using Elizabeth's money the whole time.
Big shocker there.
Again, another pattern.
Elizabeth eventually got in touch with the owner of the villa where Simon was staying. The owner said that Simon had already found someone else, which enraged Elizabeth. She turned her anger inwards and thought about killing herself, but didn't for the sake of the baby. In 2003, she gave birth to her son, Elijah Ragsdale.
Elizabeth thinks Simon contributed to the Brittany death. Simon finally contacted Elizabeth in 2007. Congratulations, only 5 years after the child's born. Elizabeth said that Simon offered to buy her a house, which she believed was his way to basically silence her, buying her silence. The stakes were a lot higher with him being married to Brittany, she said. He didn't want anyone to know I was out there with this son, and I agree with that too. Simon also threatened to come and take Elijah from Elizabeth, which is basically the only reason she stayed quiet.
Like many women do. Unfortunately, she said, and I quote, "I know why Brittany chose Simon. He works his spell on her, and she fell for it, just like I did." She also thinks that Simon had a hand in Brittany's unfortunate death. When I saw Brittany Murphy getting really thin, I knew he had something to do with that. He loves anorexic women.
Oh, God. Elizabeth also stated even if he had not killed Brittany Murphy, he allowed her to die because he did not get her to the doctor to get her help, which is also very accurate. And I believe that he did the same thing to himself, knowing he needed medical attention. Elizabeth, we are on the same page with you. He didn't get it and he died. He would rather be dead than be discovered as the con artist he was. As per sources, Simone, who was his first wife, also had a terrible marriage life with him as well, and they had decided to separate. Simone had to drag him through the courts in the U.S. Additionally, she received around $30,000 after their separation. I wanted to make sure to put all the facts and statements out here so we can get the full story. We will start with what we feel about the house.
There have been no claims of the house being haunted or any issues before Britney Spears moved in, and nothing recorded after Brittany Murphy's death. My first question is about the Reiki person. Is there a connection with them and this house being haunted?
Well, from what I can see, it's really hard, honestly, almost impossible from being here, since I don't know exactly how I could channel it without being in the home. So I'm going to try my absolute hardest. I can feel Britney Spears' energy. Hi there. And how scared she was. I even feel her doing her own normal little dance routines in the house. And I feel like she's always kind of done that. And I feel like she felt like she was pushed on several occasions. I also feel like she heard whispering in her ears and weird glitches would be happening with the intercom in the home, even the oven. Either way, the spirit in the house was in fact real. I feel like the spirit was that of an angry one, but not an evil one. I don't feel like he wanted her dead or anything along those lines, but basically wanted her to leave. And I also believe that this Reiki person did in fact do something in the home. Looks like there was something black magic related, like releasing an angry spirit in there. I don't understand why though. I see that Brittany paid him well, like she always did, and I also feel like she had made him very comfortable in her home. But she did get a weird vibe from him, but I think she was being genuinely polite. He didn't like Brittany, or he was jealous of what she had, and he didn't have any of that. Just an odd thing to do to someone. I do, however, see that there had been a few curses on a few celebrities, but that's for another day.
I definitely feel like it was probably jealousy, like, oh, this bitch gets a lot of money and I should be getting this kind of money, and kind of wanted to see what would happen. Maybe he thought it would push her in a direction of some sort of movie. You know, people could be crazy sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, when she got pushed, she almost fell down the stairs, and I see a dark face, but that's about it. I don't feel an entity. An entity is what would be harmful to people who are alive. But pulling on our arms and maybe pinching us or something like that, that's basically the jaded spirits, and they're mostly lost and angry.
Yes, that also makes sense for me. I would agree with that too. The spirit wouldn't have the power to do that. And since there has been no recorded incidents in the house before or after both of the Britneys were there, I don't feel like it's there anymore, and perhaps definitely went down with the house itself, since the spirit seemed to be more attached to the house than the property itself.
We did all this research before we started to even speak to Simon because I wanted to see what he had to say.
Are you nervous doing so?
I am, and for a few reasons. I don't want to piss him off. I don't want Brittany to think I'm full of shit. I want her to believe me when it comes to my findings about him and prove to her that he's full of shit. She will be present for when we start asking these questions, and since there's a lot to cover, I need to make sure I do things right.
Here's my first question for Simon. Since he indicated in the last message that the home controlled him, would it make him poison her? How did he come about this knowledge? Also, was there ever a point in time that while you were poisoning her, did you ever think that that was a bad idea?
When he speaks to me, he is so slow in how he answers. I don't like his energy. He has his guard up as well, And from what I can feel, he said that when he was in the home, he would become more and more obsessed with his wife taking off time from work and being at home with him instead of working. He felt she needed to take more time off, and she did want to do so, but she also wanted to do a few things before she decided to go into full force mom mode and starting that family. He shows me that he didn't like that she would say no, and it would escalate a lot. And he said it was the home. He said that his anger and frustration was heightened because of this home.
So your ex Elizabeth said that you used to isolate her also while she was pregnant, and you were also very much interested in the anorexic looking women. How do you feel about what she says?
He says he took good care of her and that she had pregnancy issues, which is why she was sick, and it had nothing to do with him. When it came to his women and what they would look like, he said he was very fat himself and he liked the look of skinny people and he enjoyed a thin woman. He may have suggested for her to lose a few pounds here and there, but it wasn't for anything else other than basically pleasing Hollywood, because they would have issues with her body.
You look uncomfortable. Are you okay?
I mean, not really, because I feel like he's lying, and I really don't even feel like entertaining his lies. The moment he said he liked smaller women, he gave me this image of a very tiny woman, not even Brittany, and how he was very turned on by her. This guy is a creep, and I don't even think he realizes it himself. From my predictions and feelings on this guy, he isn't going to get into heaven or anything in relation to it, since even in his death, he still isn't ready to admit his mistakes.
Such a bummer. What can you feel on the situation with him?
I feel a very controlling, manipulative man who wouldn't let her go. I feel like she was a woman who fell in love with a man who wasn't interested in her work, her perfection, her everything, and just wanted to get to know her. He tried for many years and he groomed her for so many years. He didn't want to wait. He only wanted to become friends with the family because he wanted to hurt her. He wanted to plant those seeds and make jokes about how he's part of the family. He would say what he needed to say to kiss her family's ass and just make her feel like she had to be with him. I feel like her mom was like, you should totally be with him. And of course she wanted to make her mom happy, so she does it. I've run into so many women and men who are just wanting to please their parents. Don't be with somebody to please your parents, please. I can feel her uncomfortable with it. I can feel her just doing it. And I feel like her last few relationships broke her heart, and choosing someone who isn't her type or someone who is older and wiser, she thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. He was in love with her already, and she knew he would take care of her.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems like it. He took care of her all right. She didn't do what he wanted, and he took matters into his own hands to make her sick. If he loved her, actually loved her, he would have never wanted her to get sick, let alone be the one to make her sick.
I see behind her eyes. She is still fearful of this man. When she was getting really sick the week before, you would think the asshole would stop since he didn't mean to kill her. But because she wasn't giving in to his demands, that means she wasn't sick enough. She wasn't changing her mind.
Is she hearing all of this? Is she still around?
She is, and she is making eye contact with me, which she really hasn't before. I know that trick. I used to do that myself, so I know it. But she isn't saying much because she's thinking about what I'm saying. She is nodding more so as well and trying to keep everyone happy at the same time. He can go to hell. I don't want to talk to him. I don't feel like talking to him will get me anywhere or get the truth. I know in my gut he meant to do this, and I know that in my heart he doesn't feel remorse. He doesn't feel like he was wrong to do it, basically.
Is there anything else that you can tell us?
I keep seeing that after she died, he felt weird and awkward, and he wanted to be with her forever. So he wanted to die with her. He tried over and over again, and from what I see, he got himself really sick in the same way so he could die too. But it was pretty slow as well. He had a harder time getting himself killed, but I feel like he didn't care. He just wanted to be with her. Called out to her every single night. I even feel like he begged her not to leave, and she stuck it out. This reminds me so much of my own story. I even feel guilt about talking about it because I don't want him to get the backlash, even now. When people are groomed, they don't realize what is good and what is bad, and from the sounds of it, it's the same thing for me. Although everyone around me was trying to warn me about him, no one really understood what he did behind closed doors, even those who had seen it with their own eyes. I remember for me, I never felt like I was in danger before. Even though he made threats to throwing me through glass windows, his friends would just ignore it and pretend he didn't say anything. But most of them were women too. I remember the first time in my life I felt like I was in danger was when he was in a car and he was speeding and he was very angry with me. I did feel bad about what I had said to him, but I felt like in that moment I didn't know if it was my ability or if it was fear, but I kept seeing him running into a car head on and against a red light. I was scared and he screamed at me. I don't think Brittany understands that he did in fact kill her and that killing somebody, hurting somebody, isn't out of love. It's out of control.
You definitely do deserve to feel like you do because you were. I seen things with my own eyes and so did so many others. Regardless of how they feel about you, I remember how broken you were, and I'm glad I was able to help you put those pieces back together.
He really did. I feel like a superhero now. I don't know if she's going to listen to me, but it's something for her to think about. I want her to go. I want her to leave him. I want her to fly away. He's holding her back, and her mom didn't know this about him. I think she kind of pretended not to see it, if I'm going to be honest. I think she kind of liked him herself. He conned her like he conned Brittany as well. So I hope she figures it out one way too.
Absolutely. We will keep you guys updated with any changes.
I want to change the mood a bit since I don't like the ending of an extra stressful level. Well, we had discussed somewhere that Ben and Jen would be getting married this year, and it happened, so I'm happy for them. I feel like Jennifer Lopez has never actually been happy. Like, I feel like she's very jaded and angry. Like, she is, we've heard rumors, she's not very good at paying her employees either. And I feel like she's just been angry for a long time. And I finally feel like her and Ben, when they had originally gotten together, it wasn't good for her image. So I think that's kind of why they broke up. But now I feel like she's genuinely happy again. Love-wise, she will be settled for a long time. And this time I feel like they will finally stay together. I have another prediction coming. Elon Musk. Lord, I am afraid to say his name. But from what I see, he already had some allegations from a mistress and something going on in that direction. I feel like there is a story that's going to get wilder and crazier. I'm not going to say that I believe it's true because this guy scares the crap out of me. But I feel like there will be more information coming forward and proof as well will be submitted. I also feel like he thinks he's super untouchable. And he does have some pretty big friends in pretty big places. I don't know if this is going to be as easy to get out of as he thinks it is. He even made a statement that he hasn't had sex in ages. We shall see what comes up. It may go a little bit dormant for a while, so you may not hear about this again for a while until the new year. Maybe even some hush money involved there too. We'll see. Vince McMahon is also in a lot of legal trouble at the moment too, and I feel like there are things that are going to get deeper and more public, and a few ex-members of Raw is going to come forward with their own experiences, and not ones he paid off either, by the way. I will get into that a little later once I do an all about WWE episode. Stay tuned for that one in the next calendar year. We have so many cases, guys. It's unreal, but it's exciting at the same time.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us today. That's it. Thank you all for the people who pledge on the patron side. Your dedication to this podcast helps us keep going. Next week, we will be covering the episode of Jordan Nebling. Until next time, guys, stay freaked out.